Hello, I'm Chris Bottger. Welcome back, everybody. We are going to now today be doing something a little bit different. Kind of an idea I had of an album club, kind of like a book club. And today I have with me as my co-album club panelist Ben,
Hello.
Matthew,
I believe in a thing called love.
and Santiago.
Hello there.
So I've had Ben, Matthew, Santiago, and myself kind of submit albums to a list, which we will then pick, I guess, randomly from. Um, I will say that though we are keeping it secret for now, who has picked what album, who has submitted which album. Okay, now right now I'm going to be listing off what albums we're going to be listening to, and all of us will give kind of our initial impressions of the albums before listening to them, and whether or not we think we'll like them or not. Now, then later on in the video, we will actually listen to the albums and then give our final thoughts on the albums themselves. So be sure to stay tuned for that, as we will have a lot to say. Alright, so I'm going to now be revealing the first two albums that got picked by a random number generator, mind you, for our first episode of the album club. So, the first two albums are Dookie by Green Day, that is from 1994 if I recall correctly, um, and Strangers in the Night by the band UFO. So, I will say to begin with, I have listened to Dookie. I actually have it on vinyl. So it's actually an album I'm already pretty familiar with. I have not listened to Strangers in the Night or really anything by UFO before. I know they're kind of a mildly popular band from like the 70s and 80s. I just don't know how I'm going to feel about it going into it. So I have heard of both these albums though, obviously. I know I like, although not love, I guess, Green Day's album. I think it's pretty good. Probably the best Green Day album, at least the ones I've heard. Um, I just have no clue how I'm going to feel going into UFO. It is classic rock though, so I probably will like it at least somewhat. Ben, what are your thoughts on these albums?
I have heard Dookie before, though I would say I'm not deeply familiar with all of it. But I have heard it before. Um, I have a positive opinion of Green Day. So I think I like that album, though I do not know it as well as American Idiot. I have no clue what Strangers in the Night by UFO is. I have absolutely no clue what that is, where that band is even from, who's in that band. I'm guess is it prog rock? I don't
I
know.
think it's kind of like hard rock, maybe, or I think it's also maybe proggy. I don't know. I'm not like a UFO fan. Um, it's a live album, I believe, if I recall correctly. Yeah,
Each
Strangers in the
album?
Night. Strangers in the Night is a live album, a double live album,
A
um, and,
double album.
and it is hard rock and heavy metal according to Wikipedia. So
Okay.
should
Uh
be should be interesting. Apparently, Slash from Guns N' Roses likes this album. All right, Matthew, what are your thoughts on the two albums we're going to be doing?
Well, I'm a massive Green Day fan, and while Dookie isn't Rob, it could probably be like maybe third, maybe fourth of my favorite Green Day albums. I prefer Insomniac and American Idiot above it, but this is like the album that basically put them in the map. As far as Stranger Than the Night, I have never heard of this album before. Before this, I was initially skeptical of this album, but at the same time, it says it has like hard rock and heavy metal, and I'm always down for hard rock and heavy metal. And also, one of my favorite guitarists likes it, so I'm looking forward to listening to it.
All right, Santiago, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, I never heard about Dookie by Green Day, neither Strangers in the Night by UFO. But yeah, well, according what Matthew says, that it has some metal, heavy rock, metal, right?
Yeah,
Well, I'm not a big fan of metal, so I don't know how I will feel about this one. But yeah,
I love honestly, yeah, I'm curious to listen to these two albums. Honestly,
Yeah, so it sounds like we have kind of an interesting kind of dichotomy here. Me, Ben, and Matthew have all clearly listened to Dookie before by Green Day, so we're all decently familiar. As I said, I do have it on vinyl, so I can actually listen to it on that for prepping for the later part of this video. Santiago hasn't heard it before, so it will be interesting to hear his thoughts. None of us have heard Strangers in the Night by UFO, so that should certainly be interesting. I'm not the biggest metal listener either. I think Matthew and Ben like it more than me and Santiago, clearly, so it should be kind of interesting to hear everyone's thoughts on that as well. And I am looking forward to maybe hearing something new that I've never heard before here. Alright, now we're going to go listen to the albums, and then we'll be right back to give our thoughts on them. Alright, now we've gone and listened to the albums now, so that's all very good. And now we will be discussing our thoughts on the albums. So we're going to be starting off with Dookie by Green Day. So, Ben, what are your thoughts on Dookie?
I like Dookie, though I don't think it's quite as good as some of the later albums by Green Day. But obviously some of the songs on it are like very, very good, like Welcome to Paradise or Basket Case. I will say that the bonus track on there, not very good.
You mean the hidden track?
Yeah, like the hidden track, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Uh,
well,
it's not really a bonus track because it was from the original release.
that's true. I don't know. It's not very good. That's all I gotta say. I mean, the album is quite good, and then like some of these elements, all part of its thing, occasionally is a little crass for me, which is fine. I mean, it's named Dookie. I mean, everybody you expect, and it's like a very like youthful punk in that sense. Sometimes it works quite well. Occasionally it doesn't. But I overall enjoyed the album.
Alright. Matthew.
I really like this album. I personally would say that this is like actually my third favorite Green Day album. It's kind of them getting it. Um, I know this is. I think this is actually their second album they've done, but it's actually the one that got them like known to the populace. And Ben was right. I agree with Ben that it's very much very like a very punk sounding album. I think this is probably their most punk album, as you know, there's a usually arguments over like is Green Day actual punk. Um, but yeah, I think this is a good album.
Alright. Santiago, what were your thoughts on Dookie?
very familiar with Green Day because I never listened to them before, and overall, like this kind of music, I'm not familiar with it. So it's really hard for me to give an opinion, but my thoughts on it is, is that I feel like, I mean, I don't listen usually that much uh, this kind of music and into the 90s stuff. So it was different from what I usually listen to. It's different, and I didn't even know like the exact genre for this. Apparently, it's funk from what I heard from Matthew. Uh, but in my opinion and my thoughts, personal opinion, is that this album it's kind of I don't wanna say it like in a bad way, but I guess I will have to be direct here. It's boring. It's kind of boring to me because I feel there's no much diversity in the songs. overall, like there's not even a song to me that stands out. There's no a melody that sticks in my head that that I can go on and on, with this melody. Like there is not that. I feel that it's lacking something here. It's lacking uh, this diversity, this kind of melodies. I will say, like I feel that every song sounds the same to me. Like I feel every song is basically the same. That's how I feel it. Probably the only song that feels different is the very last one, which is not very. It's not even one of the longest, or it's probably the shortest song in the album. So yeah.
All right. I'll give my thoughts now on Dookie. Now, as we said all on the video, me, Ben, and Matthew had all listened to this album before, so there wasn't anything listened to this time that was really a surprise to me. I do actually own this album on vinyl as well, as I think I said before. Um, I generally like this album. I will agree with some of Santiago's criticisms that a lot of the songs on it do sound very similar, and some of them are merely just pretty sturdy, but relatively unmemorable album tracks. I will say though, I do think there are some songs that do, at least to me, stand out. Um, Especially Basket Case and When I Come Around. Those are my favorite songs from the album. Welcome to Paradise is also pretty good, as is Longview. So that's what I think. I think it's a pretty solid album. Is it one that stands out the most in terms of variety? No. Is it one that stands out the most in terms of versatility? No. Is it like one of the top albums of all time? No, but I do think it is a good album. I think it's a very consistent album. Maybe a little too consistent for its own good in some cases, but it's never bad. It's never really boring, in my opinion. Always manages to keep a kind of a standard that's, a good standard. It's not. It has only a few moments of really rising beyond, and it doesn't have as bright flashes of brilliance as some albums, but I think it manages to be a pretty consistent album, and it does have some real high points in my opinion, especially when it comes to the lyrics. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good album. Although I will also say I am, of course, always glad to hear differing opinions. So yeah, that's basically my thoughts on the album. Alright, so anyone have any other final thoughts they want to say on Dookie?
I definitely like American Idiot and Insomniac more than Dookie, but I do like it more than I think 21st Century Breakdown and Nimrod, and especially Warning, which I think is of the Green Day albums I've listened to is like the quote unquote worst Green Day album. Doesn't mean it's like bad or anything. It's just like the least good.
Yeah, I enjoyed listening to Dookie. I will say to Santiago that this band does expand their sound quite a bit in different directions. Gets Bob Dylan influences on some later albums, oddly. And gets like more rock opera and stuff.
I would probably give it another chance. Yes, and listen to other stuff from them.
We ready to move on to UFO now?
Sure.
Alright, up next we're going to be talking about Strangers in the Night by UFO. Now, I'm going to preface this section by saying, me and Ben at least, I don't know about the others, but me and Ben at least ended up accidentally listening to the 1999 reissues track listing, which I guess added some extra tracks and changed the order to, I guess, better reflect the live set or something for a CD issue. Yeah, Ben, what are your thoughts on Strangers in the Night by UFO?
It was fine. It's definitely very long. It, I mean, it kind of just reminded me like a lot of the time, like a big long Rush album, or like some other old rock band. Um, that being said, there were some things I found kind of surprising in it. So yeah, mostly it was old rock. I like this kind of sort of 70s old rock well enough, so it was like, yeah. I mean, it was enjoyable to listen to, but it's not like there was any song I deeply connected with. I think the one I liked best, oddly, was the the way the music flowed on "Love to Love." Even though its lyrics were very sophisticated. I still think I like that one the best, just because there was something about how the vocals and the instrumentation and the chorus flowed together. I liked. Um, I don't think I disliked any of these songs. They're just kind of old rock songs. But the thing I found surprising about this album was I felt like I could hear elements of Born to Run and Darkness on the Edge of a Town influencing this album, which I was not expecting. Because I was expecting going in and listening to it. I wouldn't say it's heavy metal. I don't think that this is heavy metal. I was expecting either heavy metal or hard rock because I had hoped that it might be both. It was just hard rock. That was somebody's hard rock, you know? I mean, it was kind of like listening to Flush or something. And then we get to the song Out in the Street, which I know on the original track listing is song number two. But for me, on the 1999 reissue, that's number six. And it's just Bruce. Obviously he's not actually there, but it's there's a lot of Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run and Darkness on the Edge of Town in that song. It feels like there's some other song, one of his last ones.
Yeah, I will say I heard that too, Ben. There was something I felt like to me was a sort of Bruce Springsteen or maybe Thin Lizzy esque influence in there somewhere.
Yeah, that was that's the thing I've been keeping in. Because usually if I hear listen to album, if I hear a random influence that has nothing to do with what's going on with the rest of the album, I'll be time to DM everyone. And instead, it's I'm gonna hold this in. We're gonna hold it in this whole week, waiting just to say in here and just to see if I'm crazy or not. That sounds like there's Bruce Springsteen influences in here, which is fine. I think it actually helps the album quite a bit because otherwise it's just a list of 70s old rock songs that none of them are genius. But they're fine. But it does the Bruce Springsteen influence does add something unique to it that I don't think is bad. It's just distinguishes them a little bit. In a small way, but I think it made it a more enjoyable listen anyways.
All right, Matthew, what were your thoughts on UFO Strangers in the Night?
Let me preface this. Let me say something before I'm a major hard rock, heavy metal type. I love Led Zeppelin. I love Black Sabbath. Um, Rush, Deep Purple, and did I mention Van Halen? That being said, I didn't feel that much about this album. I agree that Ben, it's fine, but I felt um, very middling about it. I thought, it's nowhere bad, but I felt man, this makes me. I want to listen to the biggest thought I had while listening to this. I was like, man, I want to listen to Led Zeppelin because I feel like the person who does UFO is very much trying to be like Led Zeppelin. So it's fine, but I was like, it's too long. I didn't think it was. Well, yeah, I didn't think it should be that long, but it's also due to being um a live album, so usually they're always long. But I'm just like, meh.
All right, Santiago, what were your thoughts on Strangers in the Night by UFO?
I'm not familiar as well with UFO, like the other one. So it was a first time, of course, listening to them, to Strangers in the Night. I will say like I went without expectations with this one as well after listening to the other one. And I will say that I like this one more than the Green Day album. Like compare if we compare, but it's this one is of course from late 70s. Uh, I even thought it would be more like metal, but it was not even going into that. I would say like that style fully. Honestly I did like it. Like I didn't love it. I like it. Um, like there were some parts in the song like the piano remind me to Supertramp even because I know even Supertramp will use this kind of sound with the piano in the late 70s. And since this album it's also from the late 70s, it's no wonder that it even reminds me to Supertramp with those that kind of piano. Like it's the only song I can remember right now that has piano. It's Out in Street. Uh, also I like the Rock Bottom, which is the longest song in the album. It's not a bad song. Like I like the solo guitar. I like the guitars and that stuff. And I felt this album is already sliding into the 80s sound somehow. Um, yeah, it was fine overall. It's a fine album overall. Yeah, it's long. But yeah, honestly, it was not that bad. I prefer this one over the Green Day.
Alright, well, now for my thoughts. Um, I liked this album quite a bit. I must confess, I'd never heard anything really by UFO before this, so I still am not really familiar with any of the studio versions of any of these tracks. Um, but I did like quite a few on here. I especially liked the songs Only You Can Rock Me, Doctor Doctor, and Lights Out. I thought those in particular were pretty good and catchy, and I've been kind of listening to them after listening to the album as well. So I did like those songs. I will agree with what Santiago and Ben both said that this is hard rock in the vein of Led Zeppelin. This is not heavy metal. I never got heavy metal vibes from this at all. Um, it's I think a pretty good live album. The performances sound good. The songs sound pretty good. None of them are like the greatest song I've ever heard, but plenty of them are very catchy, very up tempo and hard. I do quite like it. I think it sounds good. It works well as a live album. The tracks, there's nothing really like new or revolutionary in their lyrics or anything, but they work well musically. And so yeah, I think I liked this one quite a bit. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to add about UFO Strangers in the Night?
I'll agree with Matthew that I did was at times hearing like maybe I don't think those singing mostly was imitating what we're playing, but there was a couple times that was aiming for it. It was like totally Led Zeppelin influences, but honestly, I felt more like it was more like Rush. But I don't know if it's
Yeah,
like a direct influence from Rush to them, or it's just like a coincidence, or like
like
just a
it felt
causation.
very much like, hey, do you like um Led Zeppelin, Rush, Deep Purple, so on and so forth? Well, we're not that, but we could, you know, but yeah, the whole listening to the album, I'm like, I want to listen to better bands, to be completely honest. Uh,
Of the three you
I mean,
listed,
last night when I was re-listening to it, to be honest, I was re-listening to it. I was like, yeah, listening to this, it's fine. I'm enjoying this. And eventually, just some point came, and I was like, no, I'm gonna listen to like something else. And then I listened to Black Sabbath.
I will say of the three bands you all mentioned, well, not Black Sabbath, but
Yeah, it doesn't sound like Black Sabbath
Of
at
Led
all.
Zeppelin and Deep Purple and stuff, I would say the band that it probably sounds the most like is Deep Purple, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I thought this was good. It was good, kind of old 70s rock. I won't say that the style hasn't been done better, because it has, but, it's a good entry in it, at some point, in my opinion, you've got to listen to more than just the same old songs over and over again, because otherwise then you'll get tired of the great ones, and that's a real tragedy, one of the greatest tragedies known to any music enjoyer. And it's good to have stuff like this. It is not S tier, but it is pretty good, old 70s rock. Some songs on here are better than others, some songs on here are more re-listenable than others. The length of this album is certainly, unless you've gotten really into it on repeat listenings, I'd imagine, the length is kind of a hurdle, I guess, for initial impressions and forming initial impressions and positive initial impressions on it. Um, but I do think it is a pretty good album, personally. I liked both the albums we met on this episode. And now each one of us will give our thoughts as to which of the two albums we met on today were our favorite of the two. As I said, I like kind of both of these albums roughly the same. Ben, what album did you think was the best?
Well, technically, the UFO Strangers of the Night was more in my style. Dookie. I mean, there were parts of Dookie I found not great, a little too silly for me, even in like a '90s way. But Dookie has like higher highs, and also it's just not that long. I think Dookie's like highs are better. Its lows are probably worse, but I think I enjoyed Dookie more. Which is not to say I disliked Strangers in the Night. I did enjoy listening to it, but Dookie is just like a more meaningful album to me.
Alright, Matthew, I kind of think I already know what you're going to say. Which album did you like better?
Yeah, it's Dookie. I had, I had a way more enjoyable time listening to Dookie. I didn't feel like, oh man, I would rather listen to different bands than Strangers in the Night. And also, I'm a big Green Day fan. So Dookie.
Right. Santiago, which album did you like the best of these two?
Yeah, I think I did mention this previously, but I will repeat it again anyway. I think it was the Strangers in the Night. Yeah, I actually enjoyed this one a little bit more than Dookie because I felt that it has a little bit more of variety, I would say, in the melodies, and I don't know, like the sound overall. I just prefer it, of course, over Dookie.
Alright, well, we've suddenly gotten a good variety of opinions here on this episode. Ben and Matthew are for Dookie, Santiago's for Strangers in the Night, and I am sort of in the middle, kind of I like them both, kind of roughly the same range. And of course, before we go, I have to reveal who picked out each album that we listened to today to put on the Secret Santa list for us to listen to anonymously. Dookie, obviously, as the listener now knows, me, Matthew, and Ben had all listened to before. So the question is, which one of us put it on the list? Matthew, did you put Dookie on the list?
Let me look at my list.
I remember who put it on there. I'll tell you right now.
Oh yeah, I didn't put it in. I would have, but I probably would have done a Green Day album, but yeah, but yeah, I didn't put this in.
I kind of had the feeling that if you would put a Green Day album, you probably would have put a different one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I must confess, I did not put Dookie either. The person who put Dookie was Ben.
Ooh, that makes sense.
And as for Strangers of the Night, none of us had listened to it before, which I think makes it kind of confusing, probably, to all of you who actually put it on here, but I put it on here, because it's an album I've seen people talk about, that people seem to like. I had never heard anything by this band before, but I've heard some people say that it's the best album by this band, so I kind of thought, hey, let's just give it a shot, and I also wanted to put on albums as my submissions to this list for this sort of album club format that were kind of just things I don't think any of us had heard before and might just be interesting to discuss and also to familiarize ourselves with. So I think this is a pretty successful first episode for Chris Bottger's album club. I think this kind of format works quite well, and I do think we should do it again next month. What do you all think?
I agree.
Yeah.
So that's it, everybody, for today's episode. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Please be sure to like and subscribe. And once again, have a good night, and I'll see you in the next video.